Welcome to the Grand Rapids Board of Education meeting. Today is Monday, November 19th, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise with us. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Hoskins.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
Randalls.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Slade.
Present.
Baker.
Here.
Baub.
Present.
Geetson here. President Lanier.
Present.
All 9 are present.
Great, we have an agenda before us. Madam Superintendent, did you want to make a request about amending the agenda?
I would. Good evening. I would like to ask the board to allow me to make a change on the agenda. I've had so many changes on the transformation plan. I would like to present that first. So if someone will make a motion.
In front of
In front of
celebrations, everything, or after celebrations, is that,
Yes.
okay?
Actually, after the student
After the student reps. Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda with the change to move the superintendent's report to prior to public comment.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Great, we have an agenda. And there looks like there are no celebrations, is that accurate? Okay. And I will turn it over to our Vice President, Dr. Baker, to introduce the student reps.
All right, we finally have our student reps, and it's fantastic because we have 2 great student reps. And I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. First, we'll start with Robert Arrington.
Robert doesn't have a
Would you
mic.
like to introduce yourself?
Oh, Robert doesn't have a microphone.
You can share.
Can you share?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Arrington. I attend school at the School of Health Sciences at Central Campus. I am currently a member of the Mayor's Youth Council and an athlete at Creston High. I'm passionate about sports. I enjoy playing basketball, football, and baseball. Playing sports for Creston is an honor to me, mainly for the teammates and caring coaches. I play for Creston to show that they have the ability to create and nurture great young athletes. When I visit the school on a daily basis, teachers, principals, and counselors treat me as if I was more than just a student. Creston is a home to me, and I would be devastated if it were to be closed. This is emphasized by the way that all sports members and teachers participate in with each other as one huge family. And what's better to having a family inside of a home? At Creston, we're home to thousands of students. If this school was to be closed, thousands of students will be eliminated from experiencing athletics. There are many teams that are near capacity at Creston, and moving those students to other schools would diminish them of their chances in making the cuts. If this facility is taken away from the community, there would be countless amount of committed supporters left without a home school to cheer for.
Thank you. Robert, what school did you say? HST?
Yeah.
And what grade?
11th.
11th grade, okay. Thank you.
So for the viewing audience and the audience here, so the important part of the student representatives that we hear from the students and get the perspectives. And I'm glad that Robert feels comfortable giving it to us. He's very, right away.
Right away, yeah.
Didn't wait for that.
There we go. Good job. Thank you. Very
So,
well
but
said.
when we met with Robert a couple weeks ago, he's very passionate and very connected, and I thought would do a great job. And then our second student is Destiny Eatman.
Hi, I'm Destiny Eatman. I go to Union High School. I'm an 11th grader. I work with the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan as a soul leader. I like to help the community and work with people.
Great. Well, welcome.
Can we clarify something on Robert's? He thought sports were not going to be open in the spring, and they will be at Creston. So even if there was a closure there, just to clarify and dispel any rumors, all sports are taking place all this year, regardless of what happens anywhere. Okay.
That's a good point. Can we introduce ourselves to the student reps so that
Yeah,
they
let's
know
just
who we are?
yeah. If I can just make a couple more comments. Destiny, I think that for those the Hispanic Center's SOUL program, can you say what the SOUL stands for? supporting our leaders, right? And so she's their after-school program and summer program, and done a lot of great stuff. And the exciting thing about having her be in that program is that she interacts with students from other schools as well as Union. So I'm really excited to have somebody from the Hispanic Center as part of this. So.
Thank you.
So if we could just go around and introduce ourselves.
Actually, I introduced myself when I got here. So
Okay.
Nice to meet you again.
Yes,
Yes, I did.
Maureen Slade, and you're very welcome to be here. We're looking forward to having you here.
Hi, I'm Jane Geetson, and contrary to what Dr. Baker said, I am not the scariest board member here. He is.
I'm Sunita Lanier, and welcome, and thank you so much for sharing those comments and introducing yourselves properly.
Teresa, welcome.
We've met. So.
Nice to meet you again, Robert. Glad to see you hit the ground running, and nice to meet you, Destiny. Thanks for taking your time to do this. It's important.
Ken Hoskins, welcome to both of you.
John O'Connor, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to participate.
Monica Randall, it's nice to meet you both. Thanks for participating.
Thank you. So anything else on the student reps, Dr. Baker? Okay. So we will move right into reports. I think, Ms. Geeson, did you have a report or no? Okay.
No.
Okay, so
Yes,
we'll go
I
right.
do.
Okay, she
Yes, I
does.
Sorry. This? So sorry. Okay. I'm announcing the Board of Education election results. The results of the election held November 6, 2012 for two four-year term positions on the Grand Rapids Public School Board are as follows. Four-year terms expiring December 31st, 2016. David LeGrand had 38,841 votes, and Nathaniel Moody had 38,902 votes.
Thank you.
You must have did some real campaigning.
Yes, they beat the record. Thank you.
Early campaign.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Board of Education. I would like to present my final, I feel like this is too far, my final recommendations to you on building our future together for the Grand Rapids Public Schools Transformation Plan. First, I'd like to just take just a few moments to remind everyone here of what this plan is about. It really is about, as I've said, about academic achievement for all students across the district. And this plan is really rooted in what we believe in, which is every child deserves a chance to reach his or her highest potential in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And our vision to become a world-class performing school district, the only way we can achieve that is by being good stewards of our time, our resources, as well as our talents. And that really is the plan for the district for the next 5 years, is for us to focus on student achievement. This plan, you will see, incorporates 4 years of data. It comes from our community input, the best thinking of my team, the listening tour, the Cambridge Review, and many, many more. But before I go into those, to each one of these, I truly want to thank all of the board members. This is very difficult, very, very difficult. The educators in this community, and not only Grand Rapids Public School employees, but educators far away. I've received communications from people that are just interested in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and just very humbled by the people that are interested in the well-being of children in this district. Staff members, students, parents, our alumni, friends, families, and community partners. But I especially want to thank my immediate team. I have a transformation team that I've been working with for the past few months, as well as my cabinet. Hours and days they have spent. And although I may be the face of this plan, it truly, truly has been a collective effort, and I do want to acknowledge and thank all of them for helping me with this. I would also like to say especially how thankful and impressed I was that even though this has been a very emotional process for many, many people in this community, everyone was so very respectful. And I've gone through transformation plans when this has not always been the case in my 38 years. And so I do want to acknowledge that everyone stayed focused on the plan. A few people got a little personal, but I didn't take it personal. But I truly want to thank this community for being so respectful as they shared their thoughts and their beliefs. You know, to the board members, you guys asked tough questions, and I want to thank you. It pushed our thinking, my thinking. I started out what I felt was a very, very good plan, and I'm proud to say today I think it's an even better plan. And so I'm really happy to be here at this point to present my final version. I'm going to go through the plan. I'm not going to go into each area because some areas I didn't change. But I did listen to the community. I did listen to parents and to staff members, to you all, to add to this plan. So I'm going to start with my very first change, and that is COVAL. Several people were concerned about what are we going to do with the MySide program. That will be moved to Stocking. Creston High School. I am recommending that Creston High School close as a high school and that City High Middle move to the location that Creston is currently at. Economicology, I'm asking to move that to the Creston campus as well, with the possibility of growing that program. The Creston students, I would ask that we move as a family to the Centers of Innovation High in order to allow the current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors to stay together as a family, have the prom, the graduation, and so forth. But I will ask to retire that school code, Creston High School. They will then be able to continue to work with their classmates in the GRPS program. As that program, I am also recommending that we move to the Center of Innovation High. Shawnee Park, I am recommending that we close Shawnee Park. However, I am asking that we move the pre-K 5 oral death program as a family and the pre-K GSRP program to the Kenosha pre-K 5. So that program would stay intact as a family. Willowood, moving the early childhood special ed program as well as the early childhood countywide program. I'm asking that we move to campus or Kenosha, depending on the neighborhood. We would work with each individual family to find the best location. The readiness program, I am asking to move that to North Park. West Leonard, our current GSRP, I am asking to move that to Stocking, with the early childhood special ed program moving to Kenosha. Straight, the current readiness program, that would move to Sibley and Stocking. The Chavez program, that is currently there, there's 2 classrooms, I would move those to Brookside and work with the Head Start group for our Native American, for the Native American Head Start program, so that we can identify a location for that program, the Head Start program there. North Park, I am recommending that we close North Park Elementary and we phase in the pre-K through 8. It would be pre-K through 7 next year, and the following year, pre-K through 8th. The ASD program, I'm asking that that remain at North Park. Shawmut Hills, I am asking for a K-8 program, and that would be for next year. Sherwood Park, to continue that global studies theme as a K-8. Stocking, we have worked and believe that we will open that in the fall. So I'm asking for that to open in the fall of next year. The closures are repurposed, and I've shared some of these, but it is for Kenosha, will close as a current elementary school and reopen as a pre-K through 5, keep the Poe High program there, relocate the Shawnee Oral Deaf as a family, Ridgemore CDC, and then some of the classrooms from West Leonard, Willerwood, and Shawnee, the GSRP program. And we have walked the building, ran the numbers with my team, and they will fit. The programs will fit. Union Westwood Alger, I am working with the state to present a turnaround model, working with Cambridge, and we would look for a strong talent retention and recruitment program. As you are aware, those 3 schools are on the list, working with the state, and so I would ask that we do a turnaround model and submit that plan on the 29th of November to Michigan Department of Education. Buchanan, Burton, Southwest, and MLK, I would ask that we partner with its partners in schools innovation. Those principals have worked with partners and to talk about the professional development and leadership, assisting those programs, those teachers as well as the leaders in that building to work together. The transformation model for Kent Hills campus, Brookside, Aberdeen, Mulek, and Shawmut Hills, I will submit a plan to Michigan Department of Education to create a governance board and to work with the staff members in order to create a plan, because they are on the lowest 5% list. We have to submit a plan on the 29th of, a draft plan on the 29th of November. And with this, we will continue to work with partners, explore all of the possible opportunities in this community for all of our students in the district. And that includes for Blandford Zoo, the Public Museum, and so forth. How do we grow? But we will work with partners to find out what is the best way, if at all possible, to grow that program. School uniforms, I still believe that this is the best way to go for the district. I am asking for pre-K through 5 for the first year, and some pre-K through 8 programs, and then a year out, I would ask that we evaluate the comprehensive and middle schools and possibly have programs opt in. There's a lot of changes here. This is a lot of information. But after you vote, we will work on boundaries, transportation, staffing, hold parent meetings, and work with this community to answer all of the questions so that we can be prepared to open in the fall. This plan saves about $4.4 million each year. And again, I would ask that we put half in the bank and we use half to reinvest. Over the next 5 years, that's a total savings of $22.4 million. That does not include the sale of any buildings. That is put half in the bank and half to reinvest into the district. And at this time, that is my best thinking from me and members of this community. And I do want to apologize because I was not able to honor everyone's request. But I did take it into consideration. And after taking all of the information, I still feel that I must do what is in the best interest of this entire district, and that is what I present to you for support.
That's it for this?
That's it.
Do we want to have public comment before we open it up for discussion? Okay. That's my agenda.
Got any cards?
Should we ask for cards? Students and families here.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I have two public comment cards. If there are any other interested parties in giving public comment on any agenda item on our agenda, if you could hold them up, someone will grab them from you. We'll start with Mr. Helder. And Tom, I think this is Britt or Brat. Brat, you can come forward to the front row. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Before I begin, let me just say that earlier was made a statement that we had no celebrations tonight. I don't want anyone to think that that means that there's nothing to celebrate. Certainly there is. I think I, for one, am very happy to see student reps at the table. Celebrate the idea that students are going to have a voice in this process as it affects them most of all. And not just this process, but all the processes. I do appreciate, however, the fact that there weren't any celebrations scheduled tonight, as there's an awful lot to talk about and a number of people who feel like they need to have their opinions heard. Earlier this evening, I was reminded, gently reminded, that the phone works both ways, and that while I haven't had nearly the kind of meetings I would like to have about this process, as a grown-up, maybe I could have gone ahead and scheduled something myself. That's a fair point. I'm still, like many others, adjusting to the reality that communication can be initiated by either party rather than having to wait for an engraved invitation to be a part of the process. Certainly, pre-election, there was a host of other things going on. There remains other things going on with my schedule, such as bargaining. I do want to let the board know we have scheduled now two bargaining meetings, one for December 3rd, the other for December 7th. For those at home, the teachers continue to work right now without a contract. But I do want to say that with the election over, I should be able to attend far more events and be able to communicate a little bit better as to what our thoughts are on the process. For the most part, though, I've been deliberately avoiding the community meetings. And I've done that intentionally because I really feel like it's important for the community to come forward and have a voice that is authentic rather than reacting to something crazy that I may say or something profound that I may say on behalf of the teachers. I really wanted this initial phase to be more what everybody is thinking rather than trying to react to somebody who has a loud voice in the room. Having said that, though, there are a host of issues that I haven't been discussed at all. And they're issues that need to be discussed. And they're issues that I don't think probably most of the community has the inside information or perhaps even interest in being immediately involved in. So I intend to get more involved in those discussions, particularly around the logistics of how this all comes together. Currently, the board does not have a policy, for example, on how staffing is going to work and transfers and vacancies given the changes in the law. That needs to be addressed. There are other policies that need to be addressed, as well as pieces in the Cambridge report, which I will fill out a card and talk about later. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bratt? Have you given public comment before?
I have not.
let me share a little bit of information with you.
Okay.
And this is actually for the rest of those who may be giving public comment that may not have. During this time, you'll have 3 minutes to share with us. There will not be any interaction between the board and you. We'll just listen. But certainly, if there's an inquiry that renders a response, we will have someone to follow up with you. But at this time, we want to just listen to what it is that you would have to say. Ms. Geetson has a red card with a 1-minute reminder, or warning, I should say, and then there's a timer that'll go off at the end of the 3 minutes. Okay?
All right.
All right. Floor is
Thank you.
yours.
All right. Well, my name's Tom Bratton. I'm a teacher at Crescent High School. This is my first year in the district. And I wanted to say first, thank you, Ms. Neal. I think this transformation plan is very informative, very well researched, and has a lot of, great things to say. One thing in looking over the plan and reading the things online, one thing that I think the board has kind of missed, or that's missed in this proposal in general, is schools get mentioned as a school, like it's like here's one school, here's another school, and it's just mentioned what's going to happen to the whole building. And I think that one thing that's mentioned or that's missing there is something that happens in the classrooms all the time, which is as teachers, we're expected to differentiate to all of our different students. So everyone in the class, it's our job as a teacher to reach them where they're at and take them from where they come in at the beginning of the year and move them to the end, which is obviously a great thing. Those are the students that I teach, and what I'm worried about in this plan is we're saying, okay, we're going to take these programs that are working, we're going to move them here. We're going to take this school that's working and move it here, and we're just going to take the other kids and put them here. And I'm worried about those students and what's going to happen with them. Where I was at before, I was at a school in Chicago, and some schools did this, and what I thought worked very well was instead of saying this building is all IB, this program is all a certain way, what they did is they had tiers inside of each school. So when I look at the elements of the plan and the belief system that all children can achieve their potential through high expectations and making sure that high quality options are available in every region of the city, is saying, okay, let's have an IB program for students in every school. Let's have an AP program for students in every school. And then you're becoming an attractive option for parents in the city. I think that this plan does a great job of saving money now, but I think that in the future we're missing things of like trends. People are buying local. People are worried more about the economy, like shop local, local food, all that kind of stuff. The next step, I think, is naturally the schools. So you're thinking now, maybe, say $5 million a year, that's 22 million. Numbers keep going down. Well, what about investing in those schools, offering different tiers in each school, saying, hey, we're a viable option, and now we can come here and become attractive to all members in the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Terry Maddox. Dave Clark. Tari, thank you. And Amanda Brown. Dave, you can have a seat there, and then the others could, Great. Well, you can have a seat in that seat right in the first row.
I actually have probably something different to say.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Well, they go one at a time.
It'll be one at a time.
Oh.
We're just kind of calling you down so that, yep.
Oh, okay.
So Tari's going first.
Time starts.
You are, I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name's Tari Maddox.
Okay, so you can start. Thank you.
Hello, this is a first for me. My name's Tari, and I moved here 14 years ago. I was pregnant with my first child. And I wouldn't say it was necessarily love at first sight for GRPS, but once I really started thinking about options of where to send my children to school, there was no question. Since my daughter started school at North Park Elementary, my commitment to this district has never wavered. We've stayed in the district happily and been very pleased with our choice of school. I have 3 hats to wear today, and that's good. I have 3 minutes, so I'll try and fit them all in the same time. First hat is I am the PTA president for North Park School. We have just an incredible school, a wonderful family, very committed parents, wonderful teachers, and of course, our students. We had our first PTA meeting since this plan was put out, and we had a pretty much unprecedented attendance, showing the parents' commitment to being part of the process. And through this, we came up with a plan that actually had never occurred to me. I was thinking hard of how we could make this transition work for our family. And we came up with a plan that we called the transition plan. And it's a plan that we would love to see the district and you to consider, and that is grandfathering in the traditional students every year, and I will allow Mr. Clark to perhaps describe that plan. It addresses a lot of the issues we were concerned about, training, keeping our family together, allowing the parents and the families that have already committed to North Park to stay there. My other hat is just as a North Park parent, I'm a little concerned if we do have our North Park traditional school move to Aberdeen. I would like to see wording that allows, Ms. Weatherall mentioned a few times about keeping families together. I would like to see us have wording in there so that our teachers and our students could move as a family and the teachers don't have to rebid on their position. So merging as opposed to closing. And then finally, as a city parent, I am pleased with the idea of moving to Creston. However, I am displeased with the idea of displacing Creston students. I would like to see both programs coexist in that building. I really, really think that the city students and teachers and administrators should be able to retain their identity, and I would be pleased and proud to be part of that community as a city parent.
Great, thank you. Dave, good evening.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Clark, and I am here as a North Park parent as well. We have a whole bunch of North Park parents here that are here tonight. We just, like Tari said, we had our meeting, our PTA meeting this past week, and we were discussing the plan. And I'd like to first of all say that we are supportive of the plan. I think that what you've laid out makes an awful lot of sense, and I can understand for going into the future, this is the direction that we need to move. However, North Park is a unique school in that we have two schools going at the same time. We have our Montessori program, we have a traditional program. Not only do parents have children in both programs at the same time, but our group is a very, very tight-knit family. You know, the teachers collaborate with one another across the two schools. Parents, friends, students that are all over the place, that we just collaborate together well. What we would ask is that the plan be implemented, the transformation plan, but in the meantime, is it possible to examine the possibility of slowing down the process just a little bit so that current parents and current families that are attending within the traditional program have a chance to matriculate up through the program before they move into Aberdeen. So for instance, next year we would essentially not allow any more traditional students to come into the kindergarten program or the other grades that are from outside of the school right now. And then as they matriculate up through the program up to 5th grade, then we would replace those with new classes of Montessori. We understand that Montessori has a high demand right now. It's a chance to pull in more people that might otherwise not attend within the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And so it makes sense, ultimately, to make it a Montessori school. However, the families that are there right now, rather than just simply displacing them to another school where they don't know who their teachers are going to be, they don't know the other families and students that are there, they don't know what's going to come to them as they go through that program, is that something that we can postpone slowly? It allows us to keep our identity currently, and allows us to finish out the school year or the school program for the children that are currently within it.
Thank you. Amanda Brown.
That's me.
David LeGrand, if you can come down. And Joylyn Bosch, if you can come down as well.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Hello, board. Thank you for hearing our comments. Hello, Teresa. I just really have, I won't be too long-winded today, but I love Grand Rapids Public Schools. I went to Creston, went to Grand Rapids Public Schools my whole life. Now my children go there. When this transformation plan came out, I was a little taken aback about how little I really knew about all this process and actually about how little I knew as a parent about what happens with our schools and how they're funded and just all the things that are going on. What I would really just ask tonight is, this plan's been going on, I understand, began under Bernard Taylor. Also he was the one that helped commission the Cambridge report, which I think was paid for by like the DeVos family. Which I find that really unnerving, since he himself has quoted that he wants to dismantle our public schools. I would simply ask that you have a moratorium on this decision, since you have 2 new board members coming in, and just a few weeks after it would be passed, they're going to be the ones implementing it and overseeing it. And since we've already lost the superintendent that started this plan, I would really like to see people that are going to oversee it and be responsible for it, be the ones voting on it. So today I would just ask you to please reconsider maybe until the summer to vote on it, so that the new board members, Mr. Moody and Mr. LeGrand, can have their say, because they'll be overseeing it. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Joylyn and David.
David, I know you. You can come up too. Board, Jolynn Bosch from Kenosha School. I never wanted to be, I never was trying to be someone who said, close someone else, don't close us. I only ever wanted us to be as good as we could be. I came here tonight thinking that I was going to plead with you, because I was also very impressed by the families and what they had to say from the Shawnee Oral Deaf. And so in my brain, I've been thinking about how to keep them there and bring us over there and turn that into a new dynamic school. I'm very grateful. I just want to say thank you, Superintendent Neal, and the rest of you for listening. I've been quietly resigned and been a little hopeful after some comments that Teresita Long made, and I've been kind of pulling back from my usual gung-ho status at my school, but I want you to know that I am going to go full force, as I have in the past. We know how to apply for grants. We've done it in the past. If you keep us open and keep us there, we will just work our butts off. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening. So my name's already been invoked here because I am almost on the school board. So I wanted to say 2 things. The first is that I will say, and I don't want anybody to take it personally, but I do think that in process terms, it would be best for this to be voted on by the new board come January, and not by the existing board, because at the end of the day, Reverend Mooney and I are going to have to deal with the consequences of this plan. That being said, I also want to point out and make something of a public record, since we have a nice big crowd here, that I have felt very included in this process and very consulted. And although if this goes as planned, I'm not going to get a vote. I've certainly got to thoroughly vet and discuss this plan. So that being said, I do not feel as though I lack any information that I would need to cast a vote on this right now. So that being said, I'm going to tell you what my shadow vote is, because I think that frankly that is the responsible thing for me to do. I have been elected to this board, and I am going to have to live with the consequences. So the 9 of you are going to decide, but I do want to make a public record of where I stand on it. Before I get there, let me talk about one minor thing, and that is the math. And fortunately, there's still a computer sitting next to me with the math on it. I want to make 2 points, and maybe 3, about the math. Sorry, Tony. The first is that I think that it would be a more accurate way to look at these cost savings and to group these numbers if you shifted one of those line items, and that is the program moves and space preparation. That is essentially.
Can someone pull this back up? I don't see what you're looking at, so. I'm sorry, just if you can pause the comment.
Do I get it? Yeah.
We're gonna take a minute. You can keep talking, at
Sure.
least we can see when
Okay,
it's
well,
done.
well, I want to make 3 points about the math here. The first is the reality is that we've had years of declining enrollment. And I think that any conversation about this plan has to include at least some discussion of realistic expectations for the near term, the next 2 or 3 years, let's say. I also think that it's appropriate in those terms to say, peg an ambitious, say, 5-year goal of when we hope that this system will stabilize. And I would like this board to own a goal of, say, within 5 years, stabilizing enrollment in GRPS. And I think that'd be a great goal, and it'd be a great thing to focus on working towards. And I think a lot of what this plan does is going to make this school system stronger and more attractive to parents in the city. But I think that we should very deliberately have sort of a 5-year plan there. So that being said, if there are going to be near-term likely drops in enrollment, that means that a lot of these cost savings are going to be relatively ephemeral. If we dropped, say, 500 students next year, well, 7 times 5 is 35. $3.5 million gets stripped off the budget. It just is a matter of simple math. So a $5 million cost saving isn't going to look like much fairly quickly, and I think that we have to be honest about that and already start thinking about how we'd react to further declines in enrollment in the near term. And I think we want to be courageous about hoping that that's only a temporary and a relatively short-term effect. But I did want to point out, in terms of the total cost savings here, so the first thing is I hope we stabilize enrollment. Second thing is some of this money is going to disappear. The third thing is that this $5 million in cost savings, or $4.5 million, if 1.5 million of that was and this is not the slide that I was looking at, but if 1.5 million of this is essentially allocated to transaction costs, there you go. Program moves in space preparation. That's essentially a transaction cost for transitioning to the new plan. That's a one-time cost. B, it's probably not really reinvestment in the things that we want to reinvest in. It's the cost of moving people around. So I would urge the board to consider spending more than the 1.5 that remains on reinvestment. I would urge the board to consider taking a smaller cost savings and putting it in the bank and invest, for example, in teacher training, things that are going to demonstratively improve the quality of education in the near term. So I'd urge the board to consider that, because if the goal is to save put 50% of our savings in the bank, moving that $1.5 million makes the ratio different.
Thank
so
you.
That's my comments.
Got it.
Thanks. I know I went past the time. I just wanted to say that I do want to cast my shadow vote here, and that is that I haven't heard all the public comments, but as of now, based on what I know, I am fully supportive of the plan that Superintendent laid out.
Thank you. Have the lights back on? Are there any other cards? Okay, I only have one left, and I just want to make sure if someone's considering public comment, this is the time to show those cards, because after this person, we'll be moving forward. Jimmy Carter is the last card that I have for now.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Carter. I've been involved with the Grand Rapids Public School almost all my life. I went to public school here, Sheldon, South, and I understand how a lot of you people feel right now, because I felt that way when they closed my high school. And no matter what school you decide to close, somebody can put out, make a case for their school not being closed. A decision has to be made, and schools have to be closed to be economical for the economy right now. So each school, whether it was if it was Union, Creston, Ottawa Hills, Campus, any school, I guarantee you there's somebody can say some good things of why keeping that school open and why closing it. So, but the main thing is, we know that you have to do something to be efficient, and some steps have to be taken. And why put it off? All I want you to know that we still support the superintendent plan, and we all must make some sacrifices and do what's right for the best interest of the whole community, not just your school. All of us want our school safe, each one of us, whether it's Stockton or any of the schools. Everyone want their own school safe, everyone. So, but some school has to be closed. That's the bottom line. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Come on, Anna.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I guess I would like to start off by saying that I really like the idea of city moving to Creston, but I think that Creston should stay at in the building, because both city and Creston have different academic areas, and I think we could both learn from each other. Like the GRPS building learns from the Creston building, and the Creston building learns from the GRPS building. We teach each other how to both apply skills that one learns in one building and the other learns in the other. And another thing is sports. Our sports would go dramatically more participation, because the city people would already be there, so it would be a less hassle for them to have to come all the way over from their building to go to play for Creston. And a lot of them already play for Creston anyways. And I had another. We just bought a lot of new uniforms for our schools, and I know a lot of people from our basketball team got cut. So it's like if we move to the East and West teams, I think that the sports teams that help get kids my age off the street, a lot of them would be cut and put back into the street, which might not be such a good thing. And just, I think that integrating city and Creston, keeping a small traditional Creston, would still be very good for both students' populations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's all we have for public comment. We will move into the remaining portions of the agenda. No action items. So the next item is the consent agenda.
We can have any discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We didn't have our discussion beforehand. Let's go back to the reports and open up discussion for the board regarding the 2.0 version of the transformation plan. So do we want to circle around, or we want to try and recapture hands? Who has a lot to say? Oh.
I have a lot to say.
So we can just raise hands then, and we'll acknowledge those. So I have Dr. Randalls, I did see your hand, Slade. I'll put everyone down for the first round. Dr. Randalls, go.
I just wanted to bring up a few points that, in regard to this City Creston, and it probably is relevant for North Park and Montessori also, the elementary and the Montessori, that the superintendent and her team has been very careful about how will that look in terms of teacher numbers, where are the programs going to be best supported academically, and moving those Creston traditional students to the Centers of Innovation High is going to really help press them for achievement. And I think that that's a big piece that people are missing in terms of, certainly students could stay at Creston, and it's not going to be possibly the best. We're talking about part-time teachers moving to different buildings where they already have that history of interacting, as our last public comment person did bring up, that they already do interface fairly well, and so they can do that as well at the Centers of Innovation. And I think that that's a really important thing, is trying to build up student numbers to accommodate enough teachers, so we have more AP classes, so we have more pushing of achievement. So that's been really carefully considered, I think, throughout this plan.
Okay, we'll just go around. Mr. O'Connor, do you have anything?
Well, first, I'd just like to say thank you to the superintendent for bringing back a second recommendation. As we said from the beginning of this plan, our intent was to be transparent and to listen and to take input and make changes that we felt were best reflected the GRPS moving forward. I know that this plan doesn't certainly make everyone happy, but I think there's a lot of things that each and every one of us can get behind and get excited about as we move forward with GRPS. As for the timeline, I know that it's never easy to make these decisions quick, but we do know that there's potential for some drastic changes to public education on the horizon in Lansing right now. And in order for us to be competitive and to continue to provide the best educational product for our families, we need to act now. And we need to be bold, and we need to implement well. And delaying this decision puts us in a predicament where we might be behind the 8 ball when it comes to some of the changes that are being proposed right now. And I just think we need to do this today or in December as the timeline indicates, so that we can position ourselves for next fall to be the choice for citizens of Grand Rapids.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Hoskins?
I would just add that I remember back when I first came on the board almost 8.5 years ago, we privatized transportation, and I was one that voted against privatizing transportation, but I think I had to hit the ground running because I actually had an opportunity to participate in that vote. But to me, personally, it seemed unfair because I had not had an opportunity to help create that plan. And so I wouldn't want to place another person in that position that I was in back in 04, 05. Yeah, that person that comes on the board, they have to live with certain things down the road. But that's all boards, you know. Consistently, people are voting, and they're going off of boards, coming on boards. Boards rotate like that all the time. So, but I just thought it was unfair that I did not have an opportunity to help create that plan, but I had to vote on that plan within 3 or 4 weeks, approximately 3 or 4 weeks after becoming a board member, and still having to deal with the backlash of you guys privatized. Even though I did not, I voted against it, but I was still a board member. So just want to put that out there for FYI.
Thank you. Dr. Fall?
I want to say thank you, too, for all your work, for all the community members and the people that have participated since we put the first iteration of this plan out. I think it is a better plan. There's so many changes underfoot with education right now. Some of them are good and exciting. Some of them are troubling. I think the exciting ones come from deep, rich work of knowing what works, what people need, what people are looking for, and I really feel confident that this plan is a product of that kind of work. And it may not be perfect, and we may not make mistakes. We may make some mistakes, but I think so much of this is solid, and it's reflective of a lot of perspectives and a lot of really caring perspectives of people that have deep commitment to this district. I'm really excited. I'm excited about a lot of this. As far as the timeline goes, January, we need to hit the ground running, and we need to hit that ground running not just because of the excellent reasons Mr. O'Connor mentioned, but because we are excited to get some of this going. And the students we're serving need this yesterday. So we know all the things that have to go in place with placement, with teachers, with principals, with plans, and so this has to happen sooner rather than later. One of the things I'm especially excited about is how we are putting non-test and rich secondary programs in the center of our city. It's a beautiful vision, and I'm really glad that you're proposing it. Rich opportunity for these students to engage with the institutions that are supporting these COIs, and for dual enrollment. I'm excited. I think it's going to change the future for kids in this district. Couple questions. One with the Central, now that I'm on it. We're mentioning that we're at 40% capacity right now, so I want to get a sense of what our capacity will look like once we move all the COIs there and when we move Creston there, and what possibility we have for expansion with those programs. And my other question, I've asked it a few times, but it still remains, I want to have some sort of numbers about programs we're expanding or beginning and where those enrollment numbers are projected to come from. So with the new programs, Gerald Ford and the IB Arts program and Stocking, where we expect to draw those students from, and from the expansions of the K-8s, I think it's Dickinson and Shawmut, and Montessori, and that we're expanding it at North Park, and that we won't just be drawing from the central campus Montessori. So just a sense of where we anticipate the numbers, the enrollments numbers coming from. I know some of them are coming from programs we're closing, but I just want to get a sense of anticipation with those enrollment numbers.
Is that something you have right now, Superintendent Neal, that you want to respond to, or I can go to the next person if it isn't?
I don't have the exact numbers, but one of the plans with this is to allow parents to make a choice. Because even though students are currently in programs, we want to offer the opportunity for our parents to have an option for these wonderful programs. So there will be some movement. We talk about the Gerald R. Ford Academic Center. We see that as a viable option. And so if parents choose that, then that's good.
So some of that we're closing Camp Howell, so that's a possibility, but I guess I'm just trying to look at where those students are coming from, each of those programs. And you don't have to answer right now, but if I could just see the thinking behind that, it would be helpful for me. Thanks.
Dr. Baker?
Some comments. First of all, I want to echo what others have said. I think that the community engagement is very important, that we've been listening. The board said we want you to listen to the community, and I think that and it was easy to say that to you because it reflects your values. So and so this definitely does that. I do want to, probably just because it's me, but I do want to state that this is a plan that this administration has created. This isn't a plan that came out of the previous administration, and this is there certainly were references in the document to previous planning efforts that existed on the previous, but this is what this superintendent has come up with her staff, and that this board also was very eager in having Cambridge come in. And I think that the previous superintendent might not have liked to see the findings from that. And the board really felt that we needed an outside entity to help us view what was happening. And so I think that, this plan, and if the board supports it, will be this superintendent and this board's, and I think to the extent that Mr. LeGrand also endorsed the next board's plan. So I think it's very important that when it comes to the final product, it will be this, and it will be this community's product too. And I feel very strongly about that, and that was one of my strong values. I think that there's some of the changes reflective, and I like to say, reserve these comments for later as well, but I think that there has been a responsiveness to lessening consequences for groups that were most affected, and we're still listening. With that, I would like to, as Dr. Fall, I wouldn't mind, these are just other questions I have, but I'd like to still get a little more information on the implementation of uniforms, how that would look, and then kind of some of the ideas about the supportive of that. And so I know that that's come up. The second thing that's come up, this has come up with both what I think that Paul Helder was going to allude to, but also the parent from North Park who was suggesting that how will staffing, is that something that's going to end up happening through a negotiation process in any way, or have we have thought about the staffing? A lot of people concerned about teachers moving, losing teachers, and just in general, if you could dispel any concerns related to that. So,
on any school that is closing, it is not an automatic movement of teachers. Okay. And so with the recent vote on Proposal 2, we'll have to work through what that process will look like. But it is not an automatic move. And so we've not thought about how we are going to move. But the question did come, are we going to lay off all the teachers? I'm not sure where I heard that. Someone asked me that question. That answer is no. We would not lay off every teacher in the district for 10 schools. That's just So wherever that rumor started, I'd say no to that.
But the staffing issue isn't necessarily coming out of this restructuring plan itself. It's just the staffing issue, because of the proposal too, is gonna have to be a discussion overall.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but it will affect this plan as well as the 3 schools that we are turnarounds.
Okay.
Because we will
Right.
follow the federal law. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, for now.
Well, I'll make mine fast. Just to make sure that I'm clear, I know you didn't touch on every single school. So then the HBCU's partnership with OHHS is still intact. The IB Arts is intact. What about the military-themed school pilot? Are you still planning for that for 13-14?
We have not had an opportunity to run those numbers, but
Okay.
that suggestion did come up from Mr. Ross, and we just have not had a chance to put the meat around that. So I would not commit to this at 2013, although I would love to see it happen. I just have not ran the numbers, so I would not commit at this point.
Okay, okay. Ms. Keaton?
Having been around for other transformation plans, I have to say I am so pleased with how this process has gone. I've had an opportunity to attend several of the community input sessions, which have been phenomenal. I think what warms my heart the most is the children coming to advocate for their own schools and their own concerns about various portions of this plan, and I'm delighted to hear input from John's team, the communications team, that students weighing in on this are very articulate and speaking very well about why they want to defend their positions. And that's really what this is all about. It's a democratic process. This is a public institution. But at the end of the day, some hard decisions have to be made. And I think this V2 of the plan is so well thought out from the perspective of how to get the most good out of something that's going to be painful. And so I'm really, really pleased with some of the changes that were made from version 1 to version 2. As for the budget that was referenced by Mr. LeGrand, the budget vote is really somewhat separate. I mean, the vote, every year there's a process, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, that you establish a budget for the school, and it has to be approved before the beginning of July. And so the new board will have an opportunity to weigh in on that budget. Matter of fact, they'll probably hit the ground running with budget conversation as soon as they get here. And so I think to that point of reinvesting more to stem loss earlier, I think that's very, very thoughtful. I think the one thing that has kept me grounded in listening to all the community feedback is Teresa's comment that I've heard her make a couple times, is this community has voted with their feet. So they're attracted to programs that work. They have those programs have wait lists. They're coming in from outside districts. They're coming in from charter schools to programs that we all know work. And they're leaving programs that don't work. So I think as part of this plan, you can see that integrated into the thinking. And so I am pretty confident that we'll be able to meet this said goal of reducing shrinkage of our students. We must, because that is really key. I think it's really important for this board to take action, although it's easy for me to say because I am leaving this board on December 31st. But I think it's really important to take action now because there is, although this plan was a lot of work, there is way more work ahead of us. And it's going to involve all of you out there, and I'm hoping that we have parent involvement out the wazoo, student involvement out the wazoo, because we have a lot of work to do as an organization to make this happen the way it needs to happen in the the best thing is that you can get involved, because there's a lot of detail here. So, and I also wanted to speak to the previous engagements that were referenced under the previous superintendent. Those things, like the strategic plan and the Cambridge, were determined by this board that sits before you. And that information was utilized in this plan as it should be, because that was a direction from this board. So I'm very pleased that we got to utilize input from over a time period, because that allowed us to hear many, many more voices than you might think we heard in the last few weeks. We've literally heard from thousands of people through other mechanisms. The strategic plan was developed by a group of about 40 steering committee people, but was then taken around this whole school system and presented in front of hundreds of parents and teachers and administrators. So that process was vetted very, to a great degree. Cambridge came in and interviewed many, many teachers, administrators, parents, students. So again, a great deal of feedback was garnered through that process. Even our superintendent hiring process got a tremendous amount of feedback from the community as to what we were looking for in our next superintendent, and most of that was geared for what are we looking for in our school system going forward. So again, many, many more voices. So when you hear this number of 1,000, I'm guessing it's probably more than 1,000 voices that we've heard over the past year at least, if not more. And so I want people to understand that this is, although this superintendent has been here, how many days now? She's worked, you have to multiply that by dog years, and I think she's been here now, at least 20 years in the superintendent role. But the voices have been expressed and have been heard. So I just want to give kudos to you, your staff. I'm guessing you haven't worked less than a 16-hour day in a long time, and I'm hoping that you get a little bit of a break.
I just wanted to piggyback one thing that, and we generally don't respond to public comment, but I think it makes a lot of sense in this forum, is that the funding source for Cambridge was from a public school consortium. This was not people trying to undermine public school and destroy what we have going forward. It was very much in the vein of trying to make ourselves strong.
Yeah, we can't paint, just like in many of our families, we have different points of view, even though we have the same last name. That is also true of some of our other families in this community as well.
Ms. Slade.
I don't know, how much longer do we? Of course, thanks for all the listening. I want to thank all the people who mailed things, tried to respond as many as I'm sure we all did. That was all very, very helpful in addition to the meetings and all the input that we had. So I just wanted to make sure people know that those will be received and listened to. I want to be very thankful for what you did for special ed. It's often a group that is overlooked, very dear to my heart, but certainly you paid attention to that and moving those hearing impaired kids, keeping the co-op kids, you know, as a family is really critical to their needs. So I really want to applaud that. Much needed. I do want to have just a few questions out there. I'd like to have some further information on phase 1 for stocking down the road. Don't respond to these now, but hear a little bit more about what that entails. I'd also like to explore what working with Cambridge means in some of these things. I think that's an item out there, and it is for me. You know, what exactly, what role is that? Because there is some suspicion out there of what that means. So I think we need to clarify that. The other one, I think I've got most of them. I think you've all covered most of them. Again, stocking one's an important thing. I've heard a lot from West Side parents, and having been born and raised on that side of town, glad to get a lot of that response. So I think pretty much that's it for me. We've got lots of kudos and thanks, Teresa, for all you've done.
I guess I'll speak first to the Crescent family, so to speak, and I use the word family, not totally loosely, but my first work experience in the city of Grand Rapids was a teacher at Creston High School and coached wrestling there, and now I'm there quite a bit because I have students in the upper bound program there. So although I'm not a polar bear like these folks here, I do honestly still have love for Creston High School. So I guess I just say that it was there was a tug on some emotions when I thought about some of the students that I currently have relationships with being displaced, and I did try to think of some alternatives, and I did actually throw out there just just floating the idea of integrating the Creston students with the city students in the Creston building, but there will be some challenges really incorporating and sharing staff, and I guess I don't know if anybody wants to chime in on this, but I guess I'm speaking to the Creston people because I guess I want you guys to understand that you have been heard, and people have been listening, and people have been considering alternatives. Just that there really are some logistical problems in keeping you in the building with the IB school, just because scheduling and sharing teachers, and like right now you share teachers easily with GRPS. That's no problem, but it wouldn't be that easy to do with the IB program. So I don't know if anybody wants to provide more information on that, but I guess I'm really just letting you know that you have been heard, and people have appreciated how the young people in particular have let their voices be heard, and you ought to be commended for that, though, really. So, but aside from that, I do have a couple of questions about, for Charlotte, I see we have something. One of the cons is the relocate categoricals, and maybe just if you could explain a little bit what that means to me, that'd be good.
That refers directly to the special ed programs that we found homes for. But so that's a con to me, is to relocate.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what I thought it was. But and along the lines of what Maureen said about how is Cambridge going to be used, I'd like a little more understanding on the Partners Innovation. I know we've already been doing some things with it, but if you can maybe just clarify a little bit to help me see it a little clearer on what we have been doing and what that's going to look like in the future.
Partners is an organization out of Oakland, California that we've been working with for about 6 months, now about 5 months, talking to the principals and the teachers on what that training would look like if they came together as a family. And we're working with Kellogg right now. It's a research-based program to provide training for those teachers and the principals there to come together as a family. And so that would continue as part of the model for next year. And some of those schools, even though they are not a part of the priority list, they are still on the lowest 15% list that you have. So looking to really strengthen the academic program in each of those buildings.
Okay. And I guess with the fear of having my house TP by middle and high school students.
What's that address?
I guess I'm wondering why we consider a delay for uniforms for middle and high school. If we're going to do it K5 and K8, I don't really see how we will learn anything from K5 and K8 in relationship to middle or high school. So I don't know. I'm just wondering on what the thinking was behind that.
The original plan was to roll out over the next 3 years. And so it was pre-K through 5 the first year. I did add pre-K through 8 for those that are in K-8s, because it's very difficult to do it through the 5th grade and not to continue. And so that was one change. But I originally asked to do this over 3 years. And the thinking is 6 through 8 a year out, so 14, 15, those 5th graders would be used to the uniforms. And so as they enter middle school, it would be an easier transition. And so rather than do it all in one swoop, I thought it would give students time to adjust over the next 3 years.
Okay. And the only other thing, not necessarily a question, but athletically, when I see Grabbers West and Grabbers East, I have fear of our excellent sports program being confused with our neighbors to the east here.
Actually, that was a placeholder because I didn't know what to call them, so I didn't want to call them
Bring
something
back
other
Grand Rapids
than.
South. Bring back that South name.
You know, I'd go for South.
And that was a whole nother issue when that closed, wasn't it?
Red and blue Trojans, that is what we would do.
Mr. Ross?
That's it for now.
Okay. Destiny, would you like to weigh in? You have any questions based on what you're hearing or the presentation? None? Robert? Of course, I saw you right now.
As you all know, my name is Robert Arrington, and I have a great feeling that there's this transformation project will actually go through. So I just say that with the transformation change, I hope that all work is put forward to creating what's best for all of the students as a whole. And I have concerns with with the combinations of schools, like what would the class sizes be like would the class sizes decrease or would they increase? And I have other concerns with the loss of students due to the transformation change. Like their discomforts, a lot of students leave. If they do, what are you going to try to do to keep them inside the GRPS?
All right. That's to you, Madam Superintendent.
Well, I will answer that. I am not anticipating class size going up at all. But what I am going to do is balance class sizes. And I'm sure you are aware that some of your classes at Creston are not at the capacity that they should be. I do think that it's really important, and this is what I've stressed in this plan, is every child deserves the same opportunity. And so if that class size is 30, in a high school, it should be 30 across the board. I don't think that we should have classes that are only 10 and 12, and then some other classes at 40. I don't think that's right. I think that we need a balance across the district, so that would be one. The other is, what are we going to do? We are going to hold conversations with parents and with students in order to provide the best fit for them. There will be some students that leave, and I hope that they don't. And it's not because of the plan. It is declining enrollment is an issue across every urban district in the United States. And Grand Rapids is no different than the others. But what I do think, where we do have kind of a plan ahead, is we are looking to make the changes now. Many urban districts have not watched the bottom line. And we are not in the predicament other districts are in. And so we can reinvest and create new opportunities. And it is my hope that parents and students and this entire community see that we are doing the right thing in order to create the best district. And I would hope you, as well as your classmates, see that. We are trying to do everything that we can to provide the best opportunity for every student in this district.
Thank you.
We'll go back around. Oh, good. Okay. I think really the only other thing I wanted to bring up was sports, and that students are concerned that they're going to be aced out of playing. And the thought is actually, we can have a freshman team, we can have a JV team with adequate numbers, we can have a full varsity team. So, for track and various teams, we don't have a lot of players. My son plays for Creston. He's a sophomore, and but so a lot of the tennis team 2 years ago, they didn't even have enough to play the 4 levels for the varsity or for the singles and doubles. So, and other teams had JV teams and freshman teams. So you're going to build up students and capacity. So it's a bigger opportunity for people to play, and that's what we're looking to do.
Good for the moment.
Anyone else on that table? Reverend Hoskins? Yeah. None? Dr. Falk?
Well, I want to thank Mr. Harrington. Those were both excellent questions. I can see that it's going to be a great addition to have you two here. And I also just want to follow up with Mr. Ross's comments, although I'm not a polar bear either. I think that was the toughest part about the first, by far, of the iteration of this plan. And I wasn't at the Creston community meeting, but I watched it, and it was tough. And I was very pleased when you proposed giving the option for the students to remain as a cohort and graduate at Central. I went down to the Rapid today to look at the bus routes to see what it would be for those kids to come from Creston neighborhood to Central. So, 2 additional questions I had. I noticed in this plan that a mention of the middle years program as a possibility at Ottawa Hills High School as the traditional Ottawa Hills High School. You're talking about the IB curriculum with that? Did I miss something, or is that something new?
We are looking at the middle years program. One of the concerns with middle years is if students don't graduate in the proper amount, then they are considered a dropout, and it goes against the graduation rate. So we need to figure out what is the best plan as we prepare students to move forward.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a really provocative suggestion. And then the other was about the KSSN, which is such an excellent model with community schools. And there's a mention about a concern with funding where we will be expanding that to Stocking and Dickinson. Is that correct? And
Currently, KSSN costs about $260,000 a year for the district, and in order to move forward, we are meeting to see if we can get private dollars for that. I have an agreement to move the Campaw program to Dickinson, but it takes about $60,000 per school. And so we are looking for funding for those. So that is my hope, that each one of those schools, and even more, become full community school programs.
okay, thank you.
Dr. Baker, did you have any?
Yeah, I have just a couple. So this wasn't brought up because it's not necessarily new, but the core curriculum for the Centers of Innovation schools. The two questions related to it. One is just in general, just to reiterate that it says here minimum use of online E2020 classes and what that's going to be. And also, will the Centers of Innovation schools, the four distinct ones, then share common core classes? And then also, how will that relate if Creston students are at Central as well? So I can read it. I can do those one at a time instead of all at once.
I can answer them all at once. The COI, I will ask the state for a new state code, so that's one. So it will become one high school.
Okay.
And the scheduling part is really not my concern. I told Ron Gorman he owns that, so Ron has already started figuring that out for me.
He looks eager.
Good job.
Okay, so that means that there'll be one common core set of core courses will be commonly done, and that includes the
Ron, do you want to come up?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether he wants to or
That
not.
not my problem.
This mic on over here.
Let me turn it on.
Let me slide over here so you can see me.
We can hear you really well.
How may I help you this evening? Talking about the scheduling piece.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what it is, but.
Well, you already have the COIs that are in the building right now, and Superintendent Neal talked about getting students off computers, and I think that was one of our priorities. We know that not off computers entirely, off computers all day, because if you've ever
Not
sat...
as a teacher, they'll be clear on that.
Correct. If you've ever sat in front of a computer for even 2 hours, you're ready to pull your hair out. So that's one thing that Superintendent Neal wants us to do right away. Having multiple programs in the building will present challenges, but we have a strong team, and I think we'll be able to figure it out. With bringing the Creston students over there and the GRPS students, many of those students share teachers, share classes. It'll have some challenges, but it'll work itself out. And if I had maybe more than about 30 seconds to know I was getting called up, I could have given you a plan that I've started to put together. But just like anything else, when you put a lot of programs there, the students are still under the Michigan Merit Curriculum requirements. We are still going to need our share of elective opportunities for students. So we'll work through it, but it'll take a little bit of time.
He actually started about a month ago on that, so.
Can I
But
ask
that's
a
what
follow-up
Superintendent Neal
question
said.
To Dr. Baker's question? So currently, are those schools individual schools now, even though they're housed in multiple buildings? So the business school is in
Some
Ottawa?
are, some are not.
Some are and some
Some
are not.
are, and some are
Yeah,
not.
so for example, the Academy of Design and Construction at Union has its own school code.
Okay,
GRPS and CBH 01, the comprehensive high school, they share a school code.
okay.
Right, so they're the same, Ottawa School of Business, they're all under the same school code. So, the only one that's really different, well, I'm sorry, there are a couple. Montessori has its
Montessori
own
has
school
its own.
code, School of Health Sciences has its own school code, and the Academy of Design and Construction has its own school code
So
also.
what are the pros and cons to keeping them separate and, merging them into one?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
If we merge into one, several things. One, we start with a new school code. You would know it as AYP. It goes
Okay.
away. We start with one. And then it's not only that, but it's the right thing to do because it is a new school, right? And so we just want to start out doing the right thing with the state. We want to clear our records of all of these old school codes. Currently, there is no Center of Innovation High, right? And so we need to do the right thing, create the high school and start from zero and get baseline data with those students.
That's right.
And then we can, and Dr. Baker, you talked about taking students off the computer. You know, we've talked about this several times. That is just not the way to have an innovation program at all. I've spoken with the partners for all of these COIs, and they've agreed that this is an awesome idea and a great opportunity for our children to participate at the downtown location. And it gives them an opportunity so they can have AP classes and AP teachers and really create an innovative program for these students rather than a computer. And so I would want to do right by this community and this district and give it a real home and an identification code with the state. So then that school can get all of its just due as a high school.
So now I have to ask the tough question.
That's okay.
If then they become one school, why not have a sports team with that one school?
Because
They'll be large enough at that point. They'll be
But sports
900.
is not just about the size of the school, because city is large enough as well.
Okay.
It really is a cost savings for the number of students that are eligible to participate and to help those students that are not currently eligible to get them there. And as a district, 18,000 students, we need to have 2 sports teams. So it is bigger than just one number for a building. We need to look at this as a district and then do right by the entire district. Creston currently has 600 students and a sports team, but that still is not the best thing for Creston High School.
Sorry, I invaded your question, Tony.
So anyway, but it's still the same way. It's how we can connect it. But it sounds like there's going to be a variety of options so it's not just we're merging in all math students are in the same math class, that there's going to be a variety of different options.
And I think with a brand-new high school, a brand-new school code, a fresh start for everybody, right? I think that's pretty powerful. And so I know we'll do well. It'll take us some time to put the plan together, but like Superintendent Neal said, she expects me to do it, and I'll work with our team to get it done.
She has confidence
So
that
still-
you would do
okay,
it well.
I want to do more math. So it sounds like we'll have at the central building, there'll be
700.
a distinct, Centers of Innovation High, a distinct Preston for the 3 years that it remains, and a distinct Grand Rapids Montessori High School.
But the distinct Montessori is connected with the Montessori program, so that's one code, right?
Okay.
Other than North Park. And Creston, we will retire that school code with the state. We stay together as a family, but that particular school code will be retired at the state.
Okay.
It is a closure of Creston.
Done?
Yeah, I got mine.
Okay.
I can grab Kurt Johnson if you want to touch on athletics again. President Lanier?
No, we're
No,
good.
okay, just checking.
Good.
Don't be smart, sit down.
I love it. I'm trying to see, what did I have? I got confused. Go, Jane. Did you have anything else?
Yes.
Okay. You had more after that?
After my long
Yeah, right.
speech.
But go ahead.
You know, my term is coming to an end.
Okay,
so I need to
asking.
speak as much as possible between now and December 31st.
Absolutely.
Well, one is, I don't know if you saw the wave going on around Creston, because you have 3 polar bears before you that did the wave. That was, to echo Dr. Falb's comment, absolutely the most difficult for me personally was that decision. I have to have Thanksgiving with a bunch of polar bears. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. But the thing I think that was most valuable for me was to sit at Creston in the back of the room and listen to student after student after student advocating for Creston. and doing it so well and so politely and so amazingly. It renewed my faith. I always had faith in Creston, but I got energized by it, and I started spreading the word with my alumni group. And I was an alumni more than a little while ago. So there's some people that have a different perception of the students at Creston today, and I have been doing my part to set them straight about what a great group of kids that are at Creston High School, and they should be very proud to be alumni of Grand Rapids Creston High School, and they should be very proud of the current students of Grand Rapids Creston High School. So that was a huge opportunity for me. I know, I'm gonna keep talking. So 13 years ago, I started on a journey of becoming a parent of a Grand Rapids Public School student. My daughter was 2 at the time. I visited Wellerwood, which is where the home of Montessori was at the time on the northeast side. And so we visited that school. It was a lovely school, and guess what? Lo and behold, the following year, it moved to North Park. And there was a little chaos. And puff of smoke, and voila, we got better. And you know what? Then there was a millage that passed, and we were going to get a new school. And guess what? Oh, they changed their mind. We're not getting a new school. We're going to close your school. Puff of smoke. Worked with the community. We're going to, okay, you get $1 million. You're going to renovate your school. We got better. Then, there's been a series of those kind of things in this journey. And all I can say is the school that my children left in 6th grade at North Park was better than the school they entered. Because of all those things, this group of parents got more connected. They worked harder together. And I believe that that's going to be true of the North Park Elementary School student parents that choose to go to Aberdeen, because I believe, because I know those people, and I know you, Amanda Brown, that they care about this school and that they're going to make it the best school they possibly can, and they're going to help other parents. And I just know that the people in this community can do this. And so I would just stress that you focus on what we can do to make things better moving forward, and really try to not get hopeless. Because when you get hopeless, you'll have a self-fulfilling prophecy. I could have folded up and moved to Rockford back when they said they were going to close North Park. We didn't. We work hard, tirelessly, every day, year in, year out. And there's a lot of faces in here that have been on that journey with us. And so I just would encourage you to keep going, because all of our students will benefit from that. So thank you.
Madam President.
I'll come up, when we finish with this, I'll come back to you before, I saw your hand. Ms. Slade. Mr. Ross.
That's Oscar.
Students. Destiny, you got anything? Robert.
Back on a term about like the sports and like with the teachers, I know that you guys said that no teachers, they're trying to limit the amount of teachers that's getting laid off. So with like the coaches for the teams, are they going to get laid off, or are they going to be combined with the other, like was it West and East, or the other schools, other sport teams that you're creating?
Good question, Robert.
Bring her down.
I will not bring Kurt down. The process for identifying coaches, we will work through that. Will people be laid off? Yes. So will the coaches automatically come? No. No. We will go through a process.
Reverend Hoskins.
Robert also asked a question earlier to the superintendent or to the staff, what will we do to help retain students? One of the other things that we talk about a lot on this board is marketing. John Helmold and his staff does a great job marketing the district, but they're small, and there are only a few people. They can only do so much. Even if they have large staff, they still can only do so much. So we have to do a better job as a whole, as the district of marketing, what we have. We have centers of innovation, we have the IB programs, we have, how many languages in this district? Different
70.
languages? 70 some odd languages in this district. And there was one community member that came up earlier, and she was talking about she wasn't aware of the process and how the funding comes into the school district. We don't expect everybody in this community to know that, but that's just one of the things that she said she wasn't aware of. And by her getting more involved through this process, she's learned a lot more about the funding. To that end, if we would do a better job as a board and as a district of educating the community on what we have, marketing ourselves, because there's a lot of great things going on here. We can help retain students. I tell people at my church that you have to do a better job. It's not just in the leadership, the pastor, the assistant pastor. You have to do a better job as a member to let people know that you're proud of your church. So we have to do a better job of letting people know that we're proud of GRPS. And I'm not just talking about the board, I'm talking about the district as a whole. And that will help retain some students also. Even if their school is closed.
I skipped my turn because I couldn't find my place, but I did find it now. My question was regarding the budget, and I know we were going to try and talk with Governor Snyder's office and even our lobbyists to kind of get some insight to all of that. Has that discussion happened yet, or, because that's really helpful too.
In light of the new information that we've received from the out of the governor's office, we have not had a conversation on the funding and what that looks like. But we do have folks on the ground trying to get as much information as possible.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions, comments? We've gone around a couple times. Any more long, drawn out? I'm just kidding.
I do want to make a comment.
Sure. Superintendent Neal?
You know, I'm going to piggyback on what Reverend Hoskins said, and to the employees. Under Section 6, every single one of you can bring your children to the Grand Rapids Public Schools. It is not a choice seat. It is under Section 6. And if you all do that, thank you.
I say one
Let
thing.
the church say.
Amen.
Let the church say amen.
So now we have the next item. It's our consent agenda grouping.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Jane is grabbing her sheets.
Hoskins,
Yes.
O'Connor,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Slade,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Falb,
Yes.
Eatson, yes. President Lanier.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, under our discussion items, we have the EAA legislation. And Mr. Helmholt is,
He just stepped out.
You must have thought I was going to speak again.
well, right.
And then I'll lunge over.
You're gonna grab her, tackle her. Well, before you have this policy brief in front of you, and I suspect that this is probably.
I wish I would have gotten it before I spent 3 hours on this.
I told you that
Didn't you
you need to
write
go to
this?
the website.
That's horrible.
And just so each of you know too, I did forward each of you a House fiscal analysis, the nonpartisan analysis done by the legislature, so.
Yes, thank you.
It's
Absolutely. And, you know, I really want us, as we're having this discussion, I really want us to consider, as a board, what would we like to do about this, you know, publicly, and what, you know, obviously, this will be public enough, but what else can we do? Mr.
Apologize
Helmholt?
for stepping out there for a moment. It kind of looked like you might be going around another time. So.
Right, that's what Jane said. You thought she was about to talk again, so you left out.
I felt the hands around my neck.
So the floor is yours. We
Thank
did
you.
see this copy of this policy brief on the table.
Yeah, I wanted to share that. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. I know our goal ultimately is to bring to you a full legislative platform, something that we'll be bringing to the committees here next week. And eventually to the board for a full presentation. But there are some things happening right now in lame duck that have legs and seem to be moving at a rate that we're certainly uncomfortable with, and certainly the content of at least one piece of legislation that's being already debated in the House is regarding the Education Achievement Authority and what's being called as the codification and the expansion of the Achievement Authority. House Bill 6004 and Senate Bill 1358. As you might recall, the Education Achievement Authority was developed to really target the state's 5% lowest performing schools. And this was actually part of the MDE application to the U.S. Department of Education for waivers related to No Child Left Behind. Part of that was creating these priority schools list and identifying that under the original intent was really to focus on just the 5%. The proposed legislation seeks to codify the interlocal agreement that's negotiated by Detroit Public Schools. So let's be real clear. One of the key intents of why they're moving this so quickly in lame duck is because they have challenges in Detroit, in part that's tied to the failure of Proposal 1. Now, granted, that's emergency manager, but there's been some powers exercised by that emergency manager that cross over into the academic lane more than just the financial lane. So looking at the need to codify is really targeted at Detroit, but certainly will be a challenge once the EA moves out beyond Detroit. They're going to be facing similar challenges. So it would put into state law the Education Achievement Authority. What it does do, though, is expands the authority of the Education Achievement Authority well beyond the 5% list and provides for state takeover of unused school buildings, regardless of whether or not they're on the 5% list. And I'll get into a little bit more detail. So among other things, it will require all districts to enter the Education Achievement Authority if they're on the priority schools list for 3 consecutive years. This is key information because we have known all along the EA is planning to go beyond Detroit. They've had their hands full and have we've had some pause here, but you've heard this administration talk about the real looming threat. If we're not able to truly tackle Union and some of these other schools, that threat exists for them to come west. The EAA under this would be given additional flexibility and I'll provide for exemption for schools that are in the EAA. They'd be exempt from statewide testing, so they would not be held to the same MEET testing standards, and they would be excused from teacher certification requirements. Now, I'll tell you, this bill is kind of a kitchen sink. It's the surgical fix that's needed plus the kitchen sink thrown in. The bill would significantly expand the EAA authority beyond just the 5% to create new forms of schools. Now, you heard us present before about Representative Lisa Lyons, House Bill 5923, and this literally, we have the Wild West kind of created recently in school reform and charter schools and online schools. That's already happening. The Wild West is kind of there. This makes the Wild West significantly more wild. It brings in a large number of different schools where nonprofits, corporations, others could create their own schools. It would provide for different types of charter, different types of online. It is again a very much an unbridled expansion of public education choices and providers. Probably key thing is providers there. The oversight. The other thing that's interesting is the oversight of the EAA shifts from the Michigan Department of Education. Right now, State Superintendent Flanagan, who is appointed by a statewide publicly elected state board of education, that authority resides with him. This proposed change would put the EAA chancellor, they would act as essentially the superintendent of the EAA district, a statewide school district. The chancellor would appoint the CEO to take over the local schools, not the state superintendent. Right now, the state superintendent has that authority.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but then they would choose the members of it from the the Speaker of the House would be choosing a member.
Governor picks 3.
So,
Yeah,
so it
but-
becomes highly
Yeah,
political
it's highly
at that
political.
point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the governor. You now have the Speaker, the Senate Majority Leader, doing political appointees to this, which would essentially take the power away from the state superintendent and the publicly elected state school board, and put it into this politically appointed situation. This would also require the governor to appoint the state school redesign officer instead of the state superintendent, and it allows the school reform officer to determine whatever redesign plan is to be implemented. Right now, the districts have those 4 options to choose from. We submit them to the state. State gives us feedback and pushes and pulls a little bit, but the state currently does not dictate what we do unless there's just absolute failure of implementation, and then they can go more to a state takeover. This one, the school reform officer could come in and dictate whatever model he or she determines is the best choice, regardless of what local input, local decision-making, and local recommendations. Notably, all school districts in the entire state of Michigan would be required to notify the MDA if they have a school building that is closed, unused, or unoccupied. Because later on, this EAA would have the power, the state would be able to take over any school building that is unoccupied, unused, and vacant for whatever purpose, not just for EAA purposes. They could take it over and use it for future charters and others, as they have this new charter cap that's gone off.
John, couldn't they also repurpose it for non-educational?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of those where it's
Without any current vetting by any committee.
And those schools are paid for by local tax
That's
dollars
correct.
given to
And
the
we have to
given to the
maintain
state.
them, ready for somebody else
You
to
have
teach
to,
them.
in fact, that was the next part I was gonna, it also says, the MDE, once they create the list, if your district is on that list, the district is, the school, district/school board is prohibited from selling or disposing of the building for 4 years, and they must keep the school classroom ready, which means we maintain it keep it so they can come in and take it over. So for example, as you're looking at this 10 school closures, a lot of times what we do is we pool the resources. If we close a building, we're very resourceful. We put to use every last piece of equipment, technology, furniture. The only thing we don't take off is pretty much the paint. And even then, Ken's guys probably have a way to do that. But the main issues of concern, as you've clearly seen, is that this is too quick, too far, and much more time is needed. Lame duck is not the time or the place for something so sweeping with such broad new powers that take away local control from locally elected boards, from locally voted on millages and bonds that have paid for locally owned locally taxpayer-funded buildings. Number 2, the focus is not on failing schools. They've taken this well beyond just simply codifying and solving the immediate Detroit Public School problem, and it allows for a total free reign of political appointees. The MASA calls it pretty clearly what it is. It's a power grab. This is taking power away from a state superintendent and a state school board. And as I mentioned before, it's a state takeover of local taxpayer-paid school buildings. This would essentially prohibit and tie your hands as a board from making decisions regarding school buildings. And interestingly, it acts as a disincentive for you to close underperforming and under capacity buildings.
Right.
Because in order to avoid being on the list, you gotta keep using it. So it's one of those things that they've thrown the kitchen sink into, and probably as notably, it lacks quality assurance. Right now, this plan talks about quality and talent. And what this proposal, as well as the ensuing legislation that goes along with it, would really create a free-for-all where the talent and the quality and assurance is not there.
So let me ask this, since we have an audience full of people who are passionate about their schools and GRPS, what message can we send away with them? What kind of action could they take? What kind of action could we as a board take to slow this down, to stop this from happening? And I think even across the state, we need to consider, because this isn't just our local legislators. We also need to consider across the state.
Yeah. So first and foremost, from a board's position, we need a little direction from you. So the position that we're recommending is oppose as currently written. We oppose this legislation as written. That is what MASA, MASB, and several other education entities. We oppose action in lame duck. If you're going to be this far and sweeping, it should not be done in a ramrod type fashion. That we do support a surgical fix as it relates to the EAA and the Detroit Public Schools solution. There is a need to bring some clarity because right now it could take years tied up in the courts. Thirdly, we strongly oppose the overreach of the powers, the state takeover of the buildings, and the politicization of the process. And so that would be the position that we'd ask for this board to provide toward us. With that, those in the audience and others, contact your lawmakers. State Representative Lisa Lyons is the bill author. She's local. She's represents just to the east and north of us.
You want her phone number?
Yeah, yes.
Please. And email?
It's really contact all your lawmakers. Start with those who are your state rep and your state senator, but don't limit it there. Our entire West Michigan delegation needs to know. We have a legislative lunch next week Friday, not this week, the following Friday. So we'll start to articulate that. And Rusty and I have already started to work on this, but we really are inhibited by what we can officially represent. We simply have been inquiring to find out timelines, what they're going to do, let them know we're nervous, and make them aware that we are taking this to the board tonight for your direction.
What's the HB number for Lisa's?
6004.
Oh, hers is 6004.
She's
I
the
thought
one-
hers was a
that's-
different one.
Yeah, and
Okay.
hers has already, she had a hearing last week, and she has
Okay.
another one, in fact, it was today. And it appears, we've been told very clearly, the EAA codification, particularly for DPS, is a priority of lame duck. So we have to all remember, this thing appears to be on a train that is already moving. And so we need to be very aggressive and timely in how we engage on this issue.
So what's the one-liner for the public?
One liner is call and oppose this.
Call and oppose
The EA.
HB 6004
Yeah.
and
And-
SB
And
1358.
I think that, which is consistent with how, if you think about our strategy, has been very strategic, in how we've approached our advocacy efforts. And that's why we also add in there, look, we understand the governor's need for a surgical fix to address the codification of this intergovernmental agreement. That makes sense. So we shouldn't just go with the oppose
Right.
everything. That is the one kind of caveat that says we're willing to focus on that. There's no reason you need to throw the kitchen sink in. There's plenty of time to discuss that. But I think that's probably going to be one of our best luck, knowing what the tea leaves are kind of showing on this,
Okay.
is to really scale this thing back significantly.
Baker and then Geetson. Did I see your hand, Tony?
No,
Or was it
I am.
Wendy's? Okay, Wendy.
It seems like in addition to coalitions built with the education community in all different levels, it seems like we could build strong coalitions with local governments, especially governments part of urban districts. It seems like they would strongly oppose this really land grab of this, taxpayer locally funded buildings and have no say from local electeds in what they might be repurposed for and no community process. So is there any ability to do that, to create a?
Absolutely. In fact, interestingly, the Taxpayers Alliance and some of those more conservative
Yeah,
groups
right,
might
exactly.
be naturals to tie
Exactly.
into.
There's no local
The local units of
representation.
government have their hands full with the personal property tax, which is also a top priority for lame duck and also seems to have the trains running, which impacts us. Certainly, we'll see a potential negative if they don't fully fund the PPT replacement.
Theoretically, there could be bonds owed on property that then would be taken and
Absolutely.
repurposed. So that's
Absolutely.
taxation
we're still
without
paying-
representation, isn't
Yeah, we're
it?
still paying bonds for the 11 buildings that were renovated from the 2004 bond, and we will do so for another 20 years, 18 years. So, yeah, absolutely.
Geetson and
So-
O'Connor?
So there was another House Bill 5923 that was also Lisa Lyons' bill. How does that connect or not connect to this House Bill 6004?
So that is the bill that essentially unbridles school choice, and it allows corporations, nonprofits, churches, pretty much anyone who wants to get together and start their own school, they now have a process and a means by which they'd be able to do that.
So are we trying to get both of these through on lame duck? Is that what they're trying to do?
No, not what we're hearing is, but this is the precursor to that, to both the significant expansion of this choice under Lisa's, but then also the new school aid funding formula that Richard McClellan's group just recently, where the dollars follow the student. John said vouchers. That's essentially what it's being referred to. And so they're all intertwined, make no mistake about it. I think they kind of took their first stab and threw that in here for this one, knowing that there are some in the caucuses, and particularly the House side, that are ready to just roll on some education reform. Interestingly, you have seen many of the lobbying groups unite around this and unite in opposition to some of the grumblings about a potential right to work legislation that would be pushed as well.
Okay. O'Connor?
Well, and just to go back to the taking of our buildings, I'm sure you don't have the answer to this, but I believe the city of Grand Rapids has first right of refusal on all our properties.
Great
So
point.
how does that, we have an agreement in place currently, and if that building's vacant, they would lose their first right of refusal. It would require the local municipality to sign off on this legislation, I guess.
Great point. And those are the things that we need to be empowered to be able to bring to Lansing.
Baker?
Okay, if you can answer this question, but so you use the phrase role in education reform. So what is this, what is their expected, is there an articulation of what this is supposed to accomplish for the good?
I think that, and again, I'm not going to speculate on what some of the things are that they're attempting to do. They believe that a free market approach is apparently the solution to quality. We've been pretty strong advocates, and it's got to be quality for all, and that includes making sure that the students with the greatest need are served, and that's where our funding formula is broken. That's where when we met with Richard McClellan before we pushed on them and said, what about special ed, English language learners, and at risk? And they were unfortunately pretty dismissive, which demonstrates a lack of understanding of the depth of quality teaching and learning, as well as the skills that are put forth in this profession, especially from the great teachers at GRPS.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we have Representative Lyons' email and
Yeah, did you have that?
phone number? I think it would be worth sharing.
517-373-0846. Email address is Lisa, L-I-S-A, Lyons, L-Y-O-N-S, @house.mi.gov.
G-O-V.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to give the other West Michigan legislators? I just think,
Those
I
are
think
also
we
on
need
the
to take
website.
advantage of this opportunity on camera.
If you go to michiganhouse.gov,
And just go through all of them.
You can also go to grps.org/communications, and there's a list right on there of legislative. It's a brochure that we have. That's a PDF.
Because I think part of it is making it easy for everybody to do this. And if you send them down a path to do the homework that we know how to do, then it becomes cumbersome, and then they're not as interested. But if they're gonna make a phone call right away, they'll just make the phone call. We share that information, put that across the screen, and also have the one-liner for people to share. And I think we need to put this on Facebook and all of the other social networking. I don't tweet.
Well, and I think it's
either,
important to
but
note.
that whatever it is. Do that too. And then that way, people can, because people don't understand, and I think they want to be involved, and they want to do what's best for all kids, and I think we need to provide that for them.
Well, I think it's important to note that it is, we've had a great response from our West Michigan delegation
Right.
in paying attention to Grand Rapids Public Schools. They know that Grand Rapids is the center of the wheel here that makes all of West Michigan go round. And so it's reached out to not only the legislators that your legislator in whatever district you live here in the city, but to our surrounding legislators to know that this isn't, it's not good for us and it's not good for the district that they live in too.
I'd build on that. We've really established a rapport with the entire West Michigan delegation, in part because we play ball a little different. And it's frustrating to some of the other colleagues in the education industry.
Sure.
Because they're like, why is GRPS getting precedent and getting their issues moved and we're not? And that's in part because we've built those relationships, and so
And
as
we
you
don't always say
approach
just
it,
no.
right, we
we
don't
give
just
it-
say no or give
yeah.
us more money.
Right.
And that's worked, and that is, you still have the same control in the legislature today, minus a few 5 seats in the House than you did before the election. So not a lot's changed, and we're going to deal with that for at least another 2 years. So we have to be mindful of the big picture on this, and to know that, we want to say thank you too. Lisa, while we may be sideways with her on this one, she played a role in helping to work with Representative Schmidt on the all-day kindergarten and to get Speaker Bolger to listen. So it was,
On that issue.
we always got to be mindful of that.
Reverend Hoskins? Well, I was just going to ask, is there any value in knowing who sponsored the bill? So we know, so I would just wanted to mention that Senator Pavlov sponsored the Senate version of the bill. So if we're addressing
Spell that.
Representative Lyons, then we
Pavlov.
should also address Senator Pavlov.
Pavlov. Senator Pavlov is also one who has been open and even somewhat sympathetic to some of our other issues on the appropriation side. It's taken a lot of time to build that relationship. But again, I think we need to be very aggressive in educating why. And this is a lot of carrying on the message we've had for the last couple of years, making sure districts like ours with a high needs, high poverty, are not disproportionately and negatively impacted.
Any other questions?
I guess I want to I'm sorry, Kenny. I just wanted to mention too that we have such a really vibrant relationship with our city government and with the parks and with the green space and with a long-term plan on the development of the green space. And so if this was passed, that would certainly thwart all of that work as well, if we think largely about our public property and who has control over it and how it relates to a lot of work that's been put into planning for our city.
I was just saying, not everybody has access to internet. We talked about going on the website and looking up those. Is there a way we can put it on our channel 27 and just have it scrolling across the screen
Absolutely.
on a consistent basis?
Ethan?
I work in other organizations that have a easy mechanism for reaching out and, writing a letter and reaching out to various representatives. Is that possible to set something up like that?
Yeah, we've done it before.
Okay.
We've done it with robocalls, and we've shut down phone lines for a day. We've done the email, we've done a lot. So we also got a fair amount of backlash when we did that.
Well, no, I wasn't referring to that.
I understand.
There's
You're like a
there's
certified process where you put an email out, they click it, and automatically sends an email or generates a form letter. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just think to make it easy for people's voices to be heard.
Yeah.
Not everybody is accustomed, as has been mentioned earlier, not everybody's accustomed to advocating at that level.
And want to, but.
And we're on a short time frame because this is lame duck, which for those of people that don't know what lame duck means, how much time do we have?
9 days of session.
Very
How many
little.
days?
9 days of session. Maybe
9
not even that
days.
many anymore.
How many calendar days?
About 3.
9 session days
3
over.
weeks.
That's 3 weeks, yeah.
Before the Christmas
Their
break.
sessions are typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if it's 9, they're actually 3 weeks.
So this
And
is a
they're all
quick,
gone now until pretty much after Thanksgiving, I think. or
so we have a
soon
little bit
will
of
be.
time to collect our thoughts, well, very little time, but
Rusty and I are scheduled to meet with Representative Lyons tomorrow night already. So we've had this kind of teed up, ready to go.
So is there anything else you need from the Board of Education?
As long as I kind of have, I think there seems to be a
Platform.
consensus on
Yeah.
what was discussed here. We'll incorporate that, of course, into the final legislative platform, but it gives me enough direction, knowing what we can say and do to start.
And in preparation for the breakfast, next Friday, is there anything you need
We
from
will
us?
I'll have that prepared. You'll have the draft legislative platform, which I admittedly have not finished yet, but it will be presented to the finance and to the education as a draft. that at least gives us a document that we can push and pull so we can use some of that at the legislative lunch. We had originally hoped to have this board approve the whole thing, but we kind of got a little waylaid on some things. But it will be ready to go, and you'll see the plan. In fact, you'll see it pretty quickly. My goal is to have a draft to you all by end of day tomorrow.
Okay. So the luncheon is November 3rd.
It's
December
30th.
30th, yeah. I mean, 30th.
Yeah,
That's
I was
what I
gonna
meant.
say November 3rd.
Yeah.
There's gone.
Pass. Yeah. 303. Yep, sorry.
Is that, any other questions?
November 30th
Okay.
at Ottawa Hills.
That's correct. 11:30.
11:30? You'll let us know.
Okay, public comment, non-agenda, I do have one card. If there are any other public comments regarding non-agenda items, you can hold your cards up. Mr. Helder?
Hello again.
Good evening.
I guess I'd just like to start by saying that words are important, and the vocabulary we use kind of defines what happens to some degree. The work of Lansing for the last 2 years, at least in my opinion, has not been school reform or education reform. It has been regression. It has been an attempt to turn back the clock, perhaps a couple hundred years, to a time when teachers were not professionals, when you shopped around for the random individual who would teach your children, and yes, when there was actual drinking on the job. What I'm hearing again today is not an improvement, it is an impairment of the ability of students to receive a quality public education. One of the things with these school closures, we will in fact incur an additional expense because we have to go ahead and increase the number of chairs, desks, etc., TVs, whatever you got to do, textbooks, for those buildings where we're moving the students to, because the other ones have to stay classroom ready. And we now have a wonderful place for somebody to move a charter school in and increase our competition and further the bleed. So I'm over my time. I think you know my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Neal?
I would like to thank the Ferris students for coming this evening and for sticking with us. It's been a long meeting and a lot to follow. And if any of you would like additional information to help with your coursework, then please let me know, because it was a lot to track tonight. So give us a call if you want more information. And then to the community, and especially my community partners, I meet with them once a month. They are there to learn. We do our work sessions and really go through the information pretty thorough. I want to thank all of you for coming out to support the district and the board this evening. This is a very difficult process for the board. And so it just helps to have people support them as they go through and make the decisions, because it isn't easy. And Jane, you talk about being a polar bear. My niece, Rochelle Weatherall, posted on Facebook her Creston 1982 license plate. I thought, where'd you get that from? and she commented on how those were the best days of her life. And she'll be in town tomorrow. And so I'm not the only polar bear, but I have my brothers and sisters are polar bears as well, and I get to face them this week.
Dr. Vandals?
Well, I'll miss the turkey trot. I'm going out of town, but that looks like it's going to be a fun event. Hopefully I'll be in town for one of these. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and thanks for a lot of hard work and people input regarding this big transformation plan.
Hoskin?
I have a lot of cousins that graduated from Creston, and I spent this past weekend at a football game at Western Michigan University because my cousin Garrett Hoskin plays for Eastern. They played Western. His dad, Osby, played at Western. There was about 10 Creston grads just, I mean, I got out of the car at their home just to say hi 10 minutes later, they were about the school closing, so I can readily identify with you, Superintendent. But hello to my Bulldogs, Fair State, Dean J. Go Bulldogs. And everyone else, have a great and a safe Thanksgiving. Spend time with friends and loved ones. Just enjoy and be safe.
Welcome again to Destiny and Robert, and also Ferris, and you guys always get your money's worth when you come down here. So it's like extra innings, right? Yeah, I like to say, one of the things I say, and I think that there are probably still some families here, we heard a lot from families, especially supporting the oral deaf school, and then also Pohai. And, I think that in light of what we learned from those emails, and I didn't respond to many, but I read them all, and what I learned is how much Grand Rapids Public Schools means to families. And of course, we know that from everyone in the room, but I think in light of the conversation that we had about the Education Achievement Authority is that there isn't a market for those students. And I think that when we look at where we're at as a district, public schools are about a community investing in its children. It's not about voucherizing individuals so we can all market and look around for our own. But it's just about coming together and trying to create a community, and that's what, unfortunately, this plan has. And again, to some extent, this is a moot plan that we've put this together. I think we have to make hard decisions. But if we end up just dismantling all of it, and there won't be, and there won't for those that can't afford choices, then they won't be able to have choices. So anyway, I think that I hope that the media picks up on that story as well. I know that Monica is always doing a good job on this stuff, but we have. When I posted an article that was passed around by President Lanier on Facebook, people are saying, my friends on Facebook who are interested and very engaged in education have no idea this is a conversation. And we have to make sure that this is a conversation that we start having because it has detrimental consequences to education for all of us. And with that, I am going to be in town. I didn't get to run the New York Marathon, but there's always the turkey trot. GRPS turkey trot. So Thursday morning. You could
run like 5 turkey trots.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, there's nothing like telling yourself you got to get out of bed at 6:30 in the morning to go run a 5K on Thanksgiving morning. But anyway, I'll be there on Thursday morning. If any other board members or staff want to join. Any staff running that?
We are. We're
all right. So, okay.
Not running, we're walking.
We'll see it. And I am excited that it's downtown this year. It sounds like a great plan. So anyway, come on out, and then you can eat guilt-free the rest of the day. So.
Good. Ms. Geetson?
I would run with your tongue.
I promise I'll be brief. Thank you for, again, all the work, and thank you so much for all the feedback, the passion. Now we need to harness this passion, because together, as this plan states, we are building our future together. If we don't rally during the hard times, we won't succeed, and we'll be doing this again in 5 years. So let's make sure that we stay together in this process. And I'll do whatever I can as a lame duck to support this. I'll be as engaged in Grand Rapids Public Schools on January 1st, 2013 as I am on December 31st, 2012. I don't go away easily. I worked really hard for GRPS before I got on this board, and I will continue to work really hard when I leave. So, excellent. Thank you.
Ms. Slade? Mr. Ross?
I guess I'm disappointed. I know he's going to have something to say after.
I'll let you.
I'm used to being last.
Okay. So I'll let them go, and then I thank you for that. Robert, do you have any comments?
Robert wants to go after Destiny. Destiny, do you have any final comments?
I want to thank everybody for having me here as a student representative, and I hope to be able to put in my input and stuff to help out.
Great, thank you. Robert?
I just want to say it was an honor to join you guys today. It's a great experience. I look forward to the future ones, and just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Be with your families, enjoy the time you have with them, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ross.
Actually, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to let my hair grow.
We got no competition. He has to be that right there.
But no, I just really want to this week of Thanksgiving, a perfect time to really extend some thanks to everyone who has let their voice be heard, whether it seemingly was positive or negative. It was all positive because it's all a culmination to bring forth what the superintendent has brought forth. So I just really want to thank everybody for being involved, young people, not so young people. Really it's everyone who really weighed in. But I really want to ask us all to be optimistic, to recognize that we are moving forward, because again, a sense of collective marketing, if you would really do the district wonders. You'd be surprised at what word of mouth really does, and unfortunately this is a sort of situation where not everyone will be happy, and we all understand needing to make some sacrifices for the greater good, and we're just hoping that, I'm just hoping that people generally get behind this and let their word of mouth really be something positive for the district. And if you don't have anything nice to say, then maybe just don't say anything at all, because it does hurt us all in the long run. And lastly, though, I'm still pretty committed. I'm going to probably try to twist a couple arms, because I do think that this aspect of Grand Rapids, I guess, what should I call it, Academic and Social Development Academy, or ROTC boot camp, or whatever the case may be. I think this is something we can get done in the fall, and I think that it will also do wonders as far as helping people understand that GRPS is serious about the commitment it has to children. So
I agree. Totally agree.
Well, in the spirit of letting Reynard go last, I don't have any comment. Thank you all for being here with us, and this meeting is adjourned.